Hey all, thanks for coming back. I want to talk today about the one thing that's going to really separate your film, make your low budget, ultra low budget film look like you might actually have a real cinematic piece there. And hint, it's not your camera. No, it is actually your production design. Your production design starts with your locations, your sets, goes to your wardrobe, your props, everything in your universe. You're starting on that foundation. When you think about a film, it's always good to think about it like building a house. You start with a blueprint first. In our case, that's going to be our shooting script. Once we have that, we're moving on to the foundation. And the foundation really is got to be, everything, your lighting, your camera, all of that is going to be dependent on having a very, very solid production design. Let's break down the first thing that we're going to discuss here. And that's just like in real estate, location, location, location is everything. Let's talk a little bit about the scouting process and things that you should look for. First and foremost, your location needs are going to vary from project to project. However, I will add one little micro caveat right there. I actually have, on a couple of occasions, found amazing locations that I knew were available for free or cheap, and literally written a screenplay around that location because they were just that good. Now, that's rare, but if you have something like that that you have access to in your hometown, that you could get in for next to nothing and it offers something unique or, interesting, take advantage of that. Think of a little story that could take place in this really cool old house or this really cool old factory or whatever it might be. Okay, so getting back to location scouting in general, you're going to want to look for things that are going to complement your story. They're really going to help the audience understand the world that you're trying to present. And again, no matter how good your camera is or even your lighting, frankly, if your locations suck, you're putting all that, you're building all that beautiful camera, beautiful lighting work you might do, that's all standing on a foundation of, sand and fog. There's two types of shooting on location, all right? There's legit shooting, where you have a permit, you have insurance, you have all that good stuff. And then there's guerrilla shooting, which...
Hey, cops! We don't have a permit. Run! I'm just kidding.
I'll plead the fifth on whether or not I've ever guerrilla shot. No, I've guerrilla shot plenty of things. One of those things about locations is you can find something that really appeals to you and like visually, oh gosh, this is perfect. But it's awful for audio. And gosh, that happens so often. Where we get into a place that's like, oh, it's this beautiful place, but it's a wind tunnel, or oh my gosh, it's a freeway outside, or whatever it is. Now, on our budgets, usually visual is going to win out, at least in that part of it, because you're like, look, this place is so good. We're going to have to fix it in post when it comes to the audio, which essentially means it's a trade-off. Yes, you're going to get this beautiful location. Trade-off, you're probably going to be doing all ADR for the audio. And just going into it, it's not the wrong decision to make if the location's worth it. It's not the wrong decision at all, but just understand what you're sacrificing and what you're committing to. You're increasing your budget, you're increasing your time in post-production, and you are going to be essentially relying on ADR, which means you're going to lose some of the spontaneity in the performance. ADR means automatic dialogue replacement, and you're never going to find a filmmaker or an actor that likes ADR. We're always going to think the original performance sounded better. Ordinarily, when you're securing a location, you're going to need a couple of things. You're obviously going to need your location agreement, how many days you're going to be there, what's going to be your use of the facility. Are you going to have exclusive access to the facility, or are you going to have partial access to the facility? Insurance is more likely than not going to be a requirement. It's going to be a general liability, 1 to 2 million. You can expect that from nearly anyone. And that's something else, that's another cost you're going to incur. That's something else you have to consider. But it's kind of hard to get around. If people are smart, if the location owners are smart, they're going to demand that they have that. So I think pretty much every film that I've done, I've really centered around what can I deliver location-wise, universe, world-building-wise, on a shoestring that's interesting and compelling to look at. No one wants to watch a movie that takes place in your apartment with 4 white walls. That's pretty uninspiring. No one wants to see the ordinary. We want to see cinema because it's extraordinary. It's an adventure. Be that horror, be that action, be that romance, be that even comedy to some extent. Everything has to speak to us on an emotional level, and that really starts with finding the right setting for your story. I've done Westerns, like I've mentioned before. I love the genre. But I've also shot Westerns because of where I live in the Southwest. And not only do I have access to these amazing locations at a very, very cheap rate, but I also have access to reenactment communities that are more than happy to come out, be background performers in my film, sometimes provide livestock. I mean, it's just amazing how we can take a small budget and really elevate the value of the movie that we're producing, the production value of the movie that we're producing. Moving on from locations, the next thing that's super important that I really look for is wardrobe. Particularly in period films. I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb when you see like someone in Western wear that just it's got that really bad, like, I don't know, like blue jeans or anything, like just really pulls you right out of it. Something that just reminds you that you're watching a movie, you're in the 21st century, you're not back in the 1800s. I mean, just, a cowboy hat that looks like something a used car salesman would wear. Even on a non-period film, wardrobe is really important. Everything that you're seeing is a deliberate choice. On a big budget film, everything you're seeing is a deliberate choice by the production designer, by the wardrober, by sometimes the actor has a say in that, obviously the director. And then of course there's props. What's an actor touching? What's an actor using? What's the hero prop? A hero prop is something where like it's got to be good enough to fool you close up. Super dangerous when we talk about firearms, but often it's something like that. Like you'll have like a rubber gun that'll stay in the holster 95% of the time, except when it's like hero time, where you'll bring in a very close looking replica that'll freak everybody out. In some cases, even a real gun, make sure that it's safety checked. You need an armor for that. It's a whole different ordeal. Most of the props that I use, I reuse. And if anybody found my storage shed, they'd probably think I was a serial killer. A serial killer was killing people made out of foam, but a serial killer nonetheless. But yeah, guys, just think about, it's one of the things that like it's kind of a pet peeve of mine when I see student films or when I see first-time films is that people are like, okay, so screenplay says interior house, night. Let's just use the first house available to us. We don't care what it looks like. We don't care how it's furnished. We don't care how it's lit. We don't care what it sounds like. Take a little bit of extra time, try to build your film on a solid foundation, and you will be so happy when you get your footage back, or when you start setting your lights, even before that, when you start setting your lights, you set up your camera, you look at your footage, and you're like, wow. There's an interesting thing we see on little movies that people say, they look in monitor and like, that looks like a movie. They're never going to say that if you're just doing it in your apartment. Hey, I mean, there's nothing wrong with filming in your apartment. Your apartment could be super cool for certain things, but you get what I'm saying. Try to look for things that actually work for you. And that's basically production design, guys. I mean, that's it. It's your backbone. It's your skeleton that everything else follows. So, all right, folks, that's it for today. Just a really quick one. I will be back next week. Hope you're enjoying the videos. And quick note, I've noticed that the gear videos get a lot more views than these kind of behind the scenes filmmaker vids. I don't know if that's algorithm based or if you guys want me to focus more on gear or more on this. Obviously the views would suggest you guys like the gear videos better, but I don't know if that tells the full story. So please leave in the comments what kind of content you prefer. A, gear, B, more kind of my experience as a filmmaker, how to, production related stuff, or C, both equally. Or D, you hate it all, but then I don't know you're watching. All right, take care, guys. Bye.